All right, welcome to the February wrap up. And oh my goodness, I did not expect to read as many books that I have read as last month. I've actually read more this month in terms of pages and everything. It's incredible. I've read 12 things. Apparently, Escaping was the name of the game this month, and across a fair variety of genres, at least it's more like pseudo 50-50 sci-fi to fantasy, which is quite nice. If you're new to my wrap-ups, I just organize things how I want. This is kind of sort of genre vibes organized this month, or sometimes the media in which I consumed it, like audiobook. I have timestamps for that down below if you like to hop around and just see me talk about particular books. But in general, let's get into it. We're going to start with speculative romance. So I read actually 2 speculative romance these months. So one was sci-fi and one was fantasy, and I could have put them in sci-fi or fantasy categories, but those aren't the things that made me go to them. They are more in the romance genre. Well, maybe not one of them, but regardless, this is the category where I go to it for the romance section, not so much for the plot and world building that I associate with adult sci-fi and fantasy. Which isn't to say some books can't have both, but I haven't found that perfect book yet. The first book we'll talk about is Hunt the Stars. This is a new release. It's the first book in a new sci-fi romance series, and it was fun. I had a lot of fun with the romance parts. I think those parts were really fun for me. I didn't have as much fun with the sci-fi plot parts, which is that's how I've been with sci-fi romance so far. Premise of this is you have a captain on a ship who has to work with this other group of people who are actually of a different species in space, and they were traditionally at war with this alien race. And so reluctant allies to lovers is the main trope here. It definitely has a lot of tropes I associate with Sarah J. Maas books, so if you are looking for something to scratch that itch, I would try this out. It definitely kind of has a similar sense of steaminess, although this is way more slow burn that you will get with her stuff. The reason why this is lower rated is because although I really liked when we were in the romance stuff and when we had character interactions on the page and I was getting to know the team, the plot was very one-dimensional for me. I didn't really care about it and I didn't find it that interesting. That said, I might pick up the sequel. I think it comes out later this year, and I see the different romance pairings that are set up, and for just a fun, I need to escape into a simple premise book, it was a good time. It fit that bill for me. Now, the next one I read is another new release, House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. This one was such a mixed bag, and it all comes down to the fact that it is such a long book, and the plot is so disjointed. Oh my goodness, could it be a clunkier plot? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how we even got to the end of the book from the initial premise of the start of the book, and it's the most convoluted path you have to take to get there, and you do it. That's what happens. And I think that, plus now it was also clunky going in and out of the romantic scenes, which it was... Let's just say that although I've enjoyed a lot of the romance and sex scenes of Maas in the past, this was so just we're switching genres so tonally in the middle of a scene, and there was no foreplay, if that makes sense. I mean, there was foreplay, but there was for me as a reader, it's oh, we were just discussing this important thing, and now we're just in the sex scene. And that happened one too many times, and Sarah J. Maas has a list of tropes and a list of things that she does in every one of her books in different orders, and I accept that. I know that's who she is. I'm not expecting her to be someone she's not. But I think she sometimes uses some of her tropes too much like crutches, and because I was not as interested or distracted by the things I'm normally distracted by, all I could do was sit there and be we're gonna do this trope again? Okay. You've only done it 5 million times, but we can do it again. It makes it less exciting, because I have read her entire back catalog. And it also, when she uses certain tropes with characters, Bryce has been one of my favorite characters, and she is, not the same as the character in Throne of Glass, but you can feel the similarities, and by making her follow certain tropes, it's well, now I'm barely differentiating these characters, which is fine. Like I said, I'm not trying to say she should be something she's not, but as someone who has really enjoyed a lot of her other books, this one was definitely very middle book syndrome, not the worst book I've read by her. I think that's still the third book in ACOTAR. I really don't like that book. I like most of the Throne of Glass books. Actually, no. The first Throne of Glass book might be my least favorite. But regardless, it was fine, but it was a little too long, and I was a little disappointed. And the end scene that everyone's freaking out about, it was... Part of the problem is that, yes, it's a very climactic scene and moment, and stuff's cool, but it's also incredibly predictable if you've read any of her other works. And because she was so bad at making me like keep up caring with characters. Like there was some supporting characters I cared a lot about, but our main characters, I'm just like, okay. Which, it's fine. I was just disappointed. I really, really wanted to love this book, and after like the first half, I was having fun for the first half. I was just like a steady like, I have to pick this up to finish it, which is not the feeling you want when you're reading an anticipated release. That's just not where it's at. I am intrigued to see what the next book is and what she's choosing to do, but it wasn't my favorite. Like, I reread House of Earth and Blood and liked it more on reread. So it's not like I was bored with this world or these characters or misremembering that I liked the first book. I just really didn't love this one. So that's speculative romance. Now we'll get into some sci-fi, because I've read a fair bit of sci-fi. And we're going to start with sci-fi, and it's not going to have all the science fiction, because then we're going to divert into, like, folklore retelling vibes. Just stay with me. First one we'll talk about is Ancillary Justice. I have a whole book club with Space Science Book Club where we talk about this, first spoiler-free, then spoilers. And this should have been a 5-star read for Angela. This is everything I like in theory. Like, in theory, I love convoluted narrative structure. I really like the themes. The character work is good. The world building is stunning. I really can't on paper tell you why I did not care about this book. But I did not care about this book. Like, I really did not care while I was reading it what was happening. I loved discussing it. I think it has a lot to discuss, and that is a lot of its value, and it's a well-crafted story with a lot of cool ideas. But I read it, I wasn't confused. I was fine. Like, it wasn't like I was confused. I don't need to relate to characters to care, but I do think my biggest issue is that our main character, because they are an ancillary, which is like an AI type thing, and I won't talk too much about what that is because it's kind of fun to discover it. This is a fun world-building discovery sci-fi book. Because of the nature of who they are, how they interact with their world is very uninteresting to me. They're very observational, they're very reactionary, and it all makes sense. It's perfectly crafted, but it was not interesting to me, which is a problem. So, I don't know, I was very upset. Another book I was excited to read, it didn't work for me, and part of it could have been my mental health, and I thought that while I was first reading it, because I had to read it for book club. I was like, am I, like, awake enough for this? Is my brain good enough? But then as my mental health improved and I was still struggling, it was a little A, little a B. Like, I'm sure I could have read it at a more perfect time, but also I don't know if I would ever care, because it's also a revenge plot book, and I didn't know that going in, but it's really hard to make me care about the intrigue of a revenge plot book. That's not intriguing to me, usually. I don't know why. So, that's Ancillary Justice. And then I did actually finish the Hyperion Canto's first duology, so I read The Fall of Hyperion. This is one of those rare instances where, for me at least, where a reread made a book worse. But not really. Like, I don't think I had a worse experience. I just rate books differently now, and I think I gave this book way more grace when I first read it. So I'm still giving it 4 stars. I still think there are a lot of really interesting threads that come together, and, you know, I'm not even trying to pick apart the things and the plot holes that bother me, because there are some, but even getting rid of all of that, there's just a writing style here and an emphasis on really, really old poetry that does not work for me. And when I first read it, it was like 6.5 years ago. It was one of my first sci-fi books. Like, I think I read it before Dune and Foundation and things like that, and I was just like, I'm just not that type of reader yet. I'll appreciate this more on reread, all of this really dense descriptive writing and these references. I'm just missing them. But, like, you know, I was just giving the book the benefit of the doubt, and I rated everything like 4 or 5 stars 6 years ago. That's just who I was. There was not a 3-star unless it was like for book club and I had to finish it. And that would probably have been like my 2 stars now, you know, like ratings change as you read more books. And I just realized, you know, there's a lot of decisions Dan Simmons makes in his writing that are not for me. They focus on things I do not care about. And they are written in ways that aren't necessarily work well in translating to my brain. And that's very personal stuff. And that's kind of why I got a downgrade. And also, there's just this thing with these 2 characters that I really hate. And I've hated it the entire duology. And on the first read, like, I missed it because of stuff. And on a second read, I saw it the entire time, and I was just like, I dislike this. Also, it's one of those books that has all of these threads coming together in cool ways, and you cannot predict it very well. Like, I reread it hoping to see it all come together, and it's not really how it's executed, which made the reread less fun too, because I'm just like, oh, when does this thing happen? How do we get there? What is the, like, little breadcrumbs? It's not really a breadcrumb book. I mean, a little bit, but not really. So that was fun, but also kind of a disappointment because I didn't like it as much as the first time. A book that was a surprise, because I went in with very low expectations, was Noir by Nnedi Okorafor. This is the newest release. Maybe Akata Witch is out now, or Akata Warrior, but this was a 2021 release by her. And I was nervous about it because a lot of my friends got this on audio, I think, for review and did not like it, or gave it 3 stars or somewhere around there and were very confused. And I can see why. I listened while physically reading it, and I just picked it up at the library, tried a couple chapters while I was there, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I took it home and I finished it in a day. And I liked it. This is one of my favorite Nnedi Okorafors. But that said, if you only do the audiobook, this is very nested narrative structure. And I don't know how clear the audiobook is. Like, I mean, it was clear to me while I was reading it, but I had the visual cue of, oh, we started a new chapter, and this is this person's story. Like, I had visual cues to go with the audio cues, so I was never confused. I'm also just not the best person to ask if something's confusing. I purposefully read a bunch of confusing things, and practice makes perfect. I don't know, I just do it a lot. And I really liked the discussion here of what makes someone a person and how someone chooses to handle and cope with their disabilities, because our main character is someone who is disabled, and it's a far future or near future world where they can have a lot of adjustments made to their body to help with their disability and make them exist in the world, but it also alienates herself from everyone else because they think of her as some demon because of all of the adjustments she's made to her body. I really liked it. I liked the character she was traveling with. It was just fun, people telling stories to each other and getting to know each other and learning about the world. I just enjoyed it. It was fast because it's still Nnedi Okorafor, so it's still a fast plot, but it was slow for her plots, and I think that was the sweet spot for me. So it was a good couple days when I picked it up, and I just thought it had a lot of interesting thoughts and conversations, and I just really always love her ideas. That has never changed. So now, kind of with that as our transition book, going into folklore / retellings vibes, we'll start with Blanca y Roja by Anna Marie McLemore. I finally have read another Anna Marie McLemore, and I desperately wish I had read this in the fall. When I next make a books you should read in fall video, this book will be on that list. Don't be surprised. This takes place at the start of fall, and it's kind of I don't know the exact retellings, but there's a lot of Snow White, a lot of swan girl retelling stuff going on here. We have sisters, and one of them is going to become a swan, and everyone assumes who it's going to be. It's the lesser sister. You know how there's always the perfect one and there's always the lesser one. See Encanto. That explains it. But regardless, one of them, though, doesn't want her sister to become the swan and tries to make it so they are the same, tries to defeat the curse. And we're watching the fallout of the curse coming to say, we're taking one of you. And it also intersects with the identity and struggles of these 2 men, 2 boys in the neighborhood. And there's really great gender conversation. There's really great familial friendship and real romantic relationships. It's so atmospheric. I really wish I had read it in fall. It is a fall read. I still loved reading it now. It was really fun, and I'm going to reread it one day. And I should get myself a copy of most of their books because they are stunning. So yeah, it has me very excited to read their next release this year, Lake Lore. And going more into folklore vibes, this should have been in the sci-fi section, but I don't know. I don't know where to put this book, but it's my favorite book of the month. I'm saying it here. This was my favorite book, The Vanished Birds. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. 2020 did this book so dirty. I have a review for this book because I love this book. It's so good. It's definitely got some folklore vibes at times. It's definitely very lyrical, which is also why I put it here. It's not your standard writing style for science fiction. It's definitely a good crossover book for literary fiction people and sci-fi people. It's also the book that kind of made me want to pick up Fall of Hyperion because it also has conversation of being reliant on a larger power and the complacency that comes with that and how that affects people and the state of civilization. That's a huge theme here, and it's also a theme in Fall of Hyperion, so it reminded me of that. And I don't know how this author does it, but he has a beautiful writing style, and somehow, even though maybe I'll only be with a character for a chapter, I care so much about them. I get instantly invested. I was so emotional while reading this book, and I rate on emotion. Emotion is a big thing for me. If you are a book that makes me want to be reading you all the time, if you're a book that makes me laugh, that makes my heart ache, you're going to get a high rating. That's partially why I like to read. So that definitely happened here. And it was thematically rich and it was beautifully written. Like, that's like the trifecta. So I had a really good time with it. It's a book that I can't really explain the plot. I can just explain the vibes. I do have a review if you want more thoughts. And the last book, I think, in this section, yes, is All the Horses of Iceland, which was the book I read last this month. And this was not what I expected, but I loved it. I would recommend this to people who liked the first book in the Winternight trilogy. Like, if you were someone who's like, Beren the Nightingale was my thing, I would read this. This is 9th century, not 14th century historical fantasy, so it is old. And it uses a lot of, I think, Nordic and Icelandic names for locations on the earth then. So I was having Google up while we were traveling, because this is a traveling story that I like. Angela liked a traveling story, probably because it was told in a folklore way and it's only 100 pages. But it's the story, the hypothetical narration of how horses ended up on Iceland, who are related to horses, I believe, in Mongolia. And the theory of this man who's a trader who traveled with these people to get these horses and come back to Iceland, and the stuff they met along the way, the things they encountered. And I really liked it. Like, I read it very quickly, like within 3 hours. Like, I didn't take a lot of breaks. I think I took a break to go do the book club, but I had a really great time. So if you like historical fantasy like that is very well researched, that really gives you a lens into a time, but also feels like a folk tale for adults, I would try it out. But like, it's not a traditionally plot-driven book, and it's not like as creepy or as atmospheric as Beren the Nightingale, but there was a lot of like that historical fantasy in A Beren the Nightingale that I found in this novella. And like, I'm thinking of buying the novella. I don't know if I will, and it's partially because I have gift cards, but like, it's a really pretty cover and I really liked it. And like, it made me want to Google things. I want to reread it and like really figure out where we are, because I think its sense of place geographically was really interesting to read through the lens of telling the story through the perspective of people in the 9th century, which is very, very old. So yeah, that is this section, and now we will transition into audiobooks that I read this month. And most of them are fantasy, but one of them is horror, so that's why I can't be that. But these were all audiobooks that I consumed. We'll start with Winter's Heart. What can I say about the, 10th book in Wheel of Time? It's not my least favorite. It's not my favorite. I'm really proud of Rand. I don't know. My biggest takeaway is, oh my gosh, our main character reached out for help, and oh my goodness, we set out a goal and we accomplished it. That's what I take away from Winter's Heart. It was short because I listened to the audiobook. And that's all I have to say. Time to get into Crossroads of Twilight next month. Or I guess this month when you're seeing this video. Next up, we'll talk about the horror, Lisey's Story. This was for my patron. I did a spoiler vlog for them. We talked about it in the Discord. It was really fun. This is my favorite Stephen King. I have some gripes, but nothing that affected my rating, and I talked about it in depth in the Discord, so I'm just not going to talk about it here anymore. But I really liked the story of following Lisey after 2 years after losing her husband, who was a famous writer, and they have this intricate past with the supernatural, and how this story decides to reveal this past to us, while at the same time in present day, tensions and things are afoot. So I really liked the combination of going between those timelines, and how the story chooses to give out information kept me very much at the edge of my seat. I was very creeped out at times, and yeah, I just enjoyed it. I really liked listening to this book. I listened to it, I immersion read a little bit, and then I listened to it while I was finishing out my sweater in between watching ice skating. Because that's how I consumed this book. And it was definitely a book that I was trying to find things to do to listen to it, because I really loved the narrator. Like, it's fantastic. Like, there were definitely voices I wouldn't have given characters that greatly enhanced my experience. And I believe the next two I'm putting together, and this is The Queens of Renthia, Queen of Blood, and The Reluctant Queen. Where have I been? What have I been doing? I have known about this series since joining BookTube in 2020, and I have not picked it up for, I don't know, really absurd reasons, such as, I don't know, it's probably not going to be for me. No, it's for me. This is Angela fantasy. Like, I don't know, it fits that very perfect plot-driven, tropey book for me. And it's really hard for me to find plot-driven fantasy that I love, because sometimes you don't get the character moments you want, or things feel too, like, by the numbers. And for me, for this one. It had a lot of the tropes that I love, and it worked out really well. So, like, the first book follows a character who is really not good at magic, but wants to become good at magic to potentially become the queen of this forest region, because the queens control the spirits, which are necessary. Spirits are necessary, or else you don't have food, you don't have plants, you don't have water, you don't have good weather. But spirits also, although they like to create, they also like to destroy. So you need this queen to control them. And she has the potential to become a queen, and because of things that happen to her, wants to try to do that, but she knows, like, it's an uphill battle. She's not top of her class. She will never be top of her class, but she doesn't give up. She's awesome. The second book, we follow a character who is a mom of children, and she is someone who's actually incredibly powerful, but does not want the power. She is just like, I don't want this. I just want to have a reasonable life, take care of my kids. Why is my husband the way he is? So I love our main characters that we get to follow, and they're so quick and they're so short, and I'm so invested in all of the plots, and I need to read the third book. It's on my TBR. I cannot wait. I have been sleeping on this series, and I need to read more Sarah Beth Dirks, because I think they're going to be just like, do I want to escape into a book? Why, yes, here you go. Like, I think that's who she's going to be for me as an author, which is honestly all I can ever ask for. So those are the 12 things. I read a lot of stuff. A lot of it was like fun, new favorites, new like awesome things that I love. Some of them were disappointments. It was a hodgepodge, but so was my mental health. If you made it this far, feel free to tell me some of your hits and misses of the month. If you want to leave an emoji just to let me know you're here. I don't know. Let's leave... Oh, I don't know. The Blood Droplets for Queen of Blood. That's the last book I talked about. And like if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.